Welcome back to CinemaFlix Music Picks. I'm Davey, your host with the most, the beast with the least. The least I can do today is continue on with our look back at last year's albums and my personal favourites. Day 6, and indeed in joint 6th, because the caveat I always add until we get to the top 5, they're in no particular order, is going to be Australia's Gang of Youths with Angel in Realtime. This is their third album, the first to really do big business internationally, top 10 in the UK. They've now moved to London. 2 albums before this had been bubbling under internationally, done well in Australia, but real indie darlings beforehand. This is the one that's pushed them into the, not quite mainstream, because number 10's not, you don't need a lot of records to get in the top 10 album charts these days, but certainly an achievement to do so, and for a band to have their backgrounds and move from the other side of the world, literally, quite something to do so they can build on it. And when you hear their sound, I think they've got every chance in the world of really becoming something quite massive, because massive describes Gang of Youths, but also with an incredible intimacy, but we'll go into that. So this album is inspired by the death of frontman Dave. I'm sorry, I'll butcher his name because it's Samoan. Dave Lapope. Sorry, Dave. It's inspired by the death of his father of cancer in 2018. To which you'd think, oh well, we've all lost. It's that, but that would be perhaps an inclination for some people. We've all had that. But what makes it a particular loss for Dave is that he discovered all sorts of things after his father died. His father was 10 years older than all that on. His father was never the son of German Jews, as he told them. It was never half New Zealand, half Samoan. He was fully Samoan, was never born in New Zealand. And Dave had 2 siblings they never knew about. So not only did he lose his father, he lost what he felt was his own story, his own background, and gained new family, and gained a different background, but he wasn't ready to process it. It was all too much at once. He got into a spiral of, we won't go there, but anyway, it wasn't a good place for him. And then we move into lockdown and things, and it wasn't a good place for anybody who's, never mind somebody who's already struggling with mental health due to these kind of issues. But they regather the band, and they make essentially, really, what is a concept album about that, because just about every track is about that revelation, family, grief, loss, identity. It's all a very, very personal album. But here's the weird thing: it's an absolutely massive album ready for stadiums. You'd think, the way I described the backstory there, that this would be the kind of music that should be mournful, acoustic, solo piano. No, there's Springsteen in here. There's a lot of Springsteen in here, especially in the wake of your leave. There's the Killers in here. There's Arcade Fire in here, especially with the use of kind of arcane instruments. He uses the Auckland's Gospel Choir. He uses tapes of Indigenous peoples from around the Samoan and Fiji Islands and things, and those are fed into the pieces themselves. There are slower tracks. There's a couple of piano ballads on here. Brothers, for example, is a gorgeous, very simple piano ballad, almost facile, but it's to really get the point across, and the lyrics of it are just insanely personal. It's kind of the story I was just telling you there, but he's just verbatim telling you what's happened with no real attempt to be coy or to use allegory. He's just telling you, and he's just telling you exactly what happened. It's more like a diary entry than a lyric sheet when you read the lyrics. It's quite something. But as you go through the album, the most wonderful thing happens. It's Dave coming to terms with what his father did and why his father told these lies. So it starts with him in the most angry, pissed off place, going through addiction and going through depressions, and then coming to understand and reconcile, and then coming to appreciate all along why his father did what he did. So why did he pretend to be half white, as Dave says here? Because he thought his children would have less bullying at school if they had white blood in them. Yeah, quite hard to even deal with that kind of thought process for a white person, quite something. And then it goes through the things that kind of brought them together: football or soccer, and Goal of the Century. Hand of God is another great piano ballad that celebrates what brought them together in the first place as kind of father and son, and what was one of their shared joys, football. And then Goal of the Century, again, a football analogy. Is another kind of ballad that then picks way up and soars massively, with a huge sound, an absolutely massive sound, that is just, it's where the title track features the angel in real time, where he realises his father wasn't a devil, he was actually just an angel in real time. And it's incredibly powerful to go from, he's literally blaming his father for everything in this, until he gets to the end, when he reconciles with everything and realises his father, he wasn't a saint, but he was an angel for a little bit, and that's all we can ask for. And he did his best. But I mean, some of the lyrics of this album, it starts literally track 1, You and Everything. I prayed the day you passed, but the heavens didn't listen. So we held you till your dark skin dulled to fair. That sets the tone lyrically for the album. It really does. It's all about, so it starts with that death, literally and figuratively. The whole album starts with his father's death, lyrically and conceptually. But again, you have to factor in the fact that this has got an absolutely anthemic, massive rock appeal. There's loads of U2 in here, circa Oh You Can't Leave Behind, maybe. Certainly some of the Eno Lanois productions. Huge sound, absolutely massive sound. And again, Springsteen-esque in a lot of places. Dave's got a fantastic voice where he can do slowed down ballads, or he can do more upbeat rockers. And because it's also conceptual, it all works as a piece. It never feels like you're listening to, this doesn't really work as a, So I really recommend this to anyone who wants to hear how an album can be both anthemically massive, a great rock album, but also as personal as an album can possibly be. There's nothing more personal than what Dave goes through in these lyrics. And it finishes off the thank yous and the liner notes with power and gratitude to all Pacifica, Maori and indigenous people everywhere. Keep telling our stories. And what the stories are here are not literal, when you hear keep telling our stories, it makes it sound ancient, doesn't it? It makes it sound like here it would be William Wallace, etc. That's our stories. But our stories are our stories, so it's just our lives. It's not ancient folklore stuff. He's not saying keep telling those stories. It's our stories. So keep telling your own personal story is what he's really asking everyone to do there. And that's exactly what Dave's done here. It's a concept album for a stadium. It's an album about grief and death and resolution for a stadium, which I can't think of many acts that could pull it off, but Gang of Youths certainly do here. The whole band are fantastic, by the way. I know I've been singling out Dave because it is his story, and he is by far the front man of this group, believe me, but the whole band are lock sync, keeping everything going. So I'll wrap this one up because I've gone on a little bit longer than I normally do on these, but I think for such a powerful story, needed an explanation and some background rather than just, hey, I liked this track and hey, I liked that track. But trust me, again, I'll leave a track in the comments that you can listen to. Trust me, there is something for everybody on here. It might be a bit too personal for you if you've gone through similar issues, but my goodness, I lost my father when I was young, and it brought me to tears in places. Some of the things you don't get the chance to say, and some of the things that leave you angry, even though it can't be helped, and things you wish you could have said, and things you wish you could ask now, even decades later in my case. But yeah, so well recommended. Gang of Youths, Angel in Real Time, one of my albums of 2022. And Dave, thank you very much for sharing your stories. Keep doing so, and we all will too. Until then, folks, stay very safe out there, and love and mercy to you and your family.